I'm Zachary with the Dallas Fuel, and you're listening to The Center Ring.
Okay, so let's start.
What is up, everybody? Hello, and welcome back to another edition of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. This is episode 220, coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date, happy 3/11 day, everyone. Amber is the color of your energy. And it's 8:41 p.m. Central Standard Time. What a crazy day. This coronavirus is just not going away. And it's ruining esports, it's ruining gaming, it's ruining sports. So we gotta do a little corona update for you. But again, it's not stopping this train, folks. Because today is going to be the best episode ever. I promise you that. As Flashpoint is about to start this weekend on very shaky wheels. Very shaky. So we'll get to that. The ESL Rio Major, the stage is set. The teams are ready to go. But will it happen? I don't know. I don't know. Is Corona in Brazil yet? We'll find out. And of course, we have e-news. How can we forget about e-news? But before we do any of that, you got to make sure you follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. And go to YouTube, tcr.gg is the website, has all the other links there. Hello, my name is Tim. I'll be your captain for this journey into esports. But alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend. It's Anuj. What's up?
Wait, who is that?
Anna?
Is that Tim?
Yep. If you're watching
For those
on
of
stream.
you that are not watching this, Tim has finally cut his hair. And I'm talking about like he shed his hair because this is a new man. You look like you lost about 10 pounds on the face. I'm not even joking. That's crazy. You look totally different.
Right? I actually have a neck.
Yeah.
See my
Yeah,
neck
it looks
now?
good, man. Looking
What little
sharp.
neck I have, but I have a neck. It feels weird.
You look like a dad.
Yeah,
You know? The
Fair
stash and everything.
Fair
Looking
enough.
Very dad.
fair enough. It feels about 10 degrees cooler without having like long. So I had longer hair. Oh, it was pretty long. It was long. And it's also just super thick. So yeah, it's
Got it
always
shed for the
weird.
summertime, man.
Always weird going from like a big haircut to, you know, just to shed it off. Be a new you, Anuj.
I'm not gonna lie, I got a little nervous because I thought you had a job interview. Like I thought we might be making a change.
I'm sure that's what my actual bosses think at my full-time job is. They're probably like, what's going on here?
What are you doing, buddy?
What's going on here, Tim? What are you doing?
Wear a
You're
suit tomorrow to really throw him off.
taking a lot of half days here lately and got a haircut. What are you doing? What are you doing? Little do they know, it's just because Warzone dropped, and the less hair, the less self-bathing I actually have to do. So there's that. There's the secret to my trade on that one. Real quick, before we get to Corona news. Well, actually, let's do Corona news first, and then we'll do a shout out. Because right before the show happened, this is not esports related, but it is too big to not bring up. Because I think it just sets the stage for how, like, if they can do it, okay, then it's going to happen to esports. But the NBA has announced that they are suspending the season starting now. Like, the Oklahoma City Thunder were about to tip off, and they said, hold up, everybody out. We're not doing this. We're suspending the season.
Mavs are in the third quarter, I think, right now. So like some of the games went live, but after today, like, dude, that's crazy. You know, in the bigger news in this, Tim, is they just suspended travel from Europe to and from the US, except for the United Kingdom, I believe, which is like in effect Friday for 30 days. And so you think all of this is happening and we're about to see any live esports events? you got to be kidding yourself at this point. Like now you'll really see the trickle effect take place. Like anything over the next 30 days is pretty much going to be canceled at this point. Like I just don't see any way that it goes on when.
So let's do an update for everyone at home. For all you folks keeping score at home, NBA suspended. You now have some counties in California who are banning any events with more than 1,000 people. So any sporting event, concerts, anything like that, you can't happen. E3 has been canceled. Not postponed, not suspended, canceled.
That one, like, man, that sucks because that's in June, and so I understand a lot of the cancellations that have come up, and not to say that I don't understand E3s, but that one seems a little premature to me. Like I felt like you could have probably postponed your decision 30 days from now, and maybe that could have been the statement, right? Like, hey, before everyone starts booking travel, or if you book travel, like just be aware in the next 30 days we're going to have to make a decision whether the show is going to
Yeah.
go on or not.
I think
So
that's
that's
why
in
they did it.
mid-June.
Is because there are I mean, E3 is a global event, right?
True.
It's almost like how the Olympics are like, hey, we're going to know 3 months out, right? This is not a month before. This is a 3 month out thing because people
Yeah.
start, like the athletes will start getting there super early to start like acclimating to the area, right? Because I guess that's what super healthy people need, you know? Unlike
You
us
could even wait
warriors
until
who,
April though, right? Because I've been April, May, and then partial, half of June would have given like 2.5 months roughly
yeah.
at this point. And it sucks, dude. It's just again, it's just another event that's gone. Obviously, we've
Though,
we've seen what's happening with ESLs and the
little
flashpoints and all that.
watch out because the word on the street's going to be that E3 was going to cancel regardless because every dev that's worth a dime canceled it anyways, and they do their own thing. Nintendo's been ahead of the curve for years by just sending in a videotape of their pre-recorded conference.
If there was like ever a year to lose E3, like this would honestly be it, right? Like there's no Sony going to be involved. Nintendo kind of has their own conference that they release a lot of their content at. They're going to want to do something huge for Halo. So it's like if there was a year to lose E3, it would be this one, but it still sucks because it's just so much fun. Like I just love watching it all, even the indie stuff. Like I just sit there and I just
Yeah.
take it all in. So
Overwatch has announced that they are canceling all the events. Now the games are still taking place,
mhm.
but their March and April events will be canceled. Now, they haven't said anything yet about CDL, but given the fact that they're ran by the same people, I mean, if I'm a betting man, which I am, those aren't happening either.
I feel like we're not going to be going to the Toyota Music Factory here in a few weeks in Dallas. Like I just don't see that happening.
I don't see how everything else around it can cancel. The same parent company canceling events, but then the CDL is like, no, we're good.
I mean, in all honesty, like with a pregnant wife at home, like is that something I really want to go to anyway? Is an event that is going to have a couple thousand people there? It's going to be a huge show.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just going to fill up.
Now,
So
also me, because I laugh in the face of Corona because it can't touch me. I'm like, okay, CDL event gets canceled. You know what's that same weekend in Nuge? Texas Motor Speedway. NASCAR's in town.
that's the place you want to be.
Now I'm the new #1 NASCAR fan. I might head up 35, 5 minutes up the road, and check out some NASCAR on the weekend.
What's cute is you think that that's still happening too.
NASCAR don't give a damn.
Dude,
NASCAR
there's no way.
don't-
There's no way.
They're
That's
not
a
afraid of it.
huge event.
They're not afraid.
They're not afraid.
They're not
They're gonna
afraid.
follow. They're gonna follow suit. The NBA just like created the ripple effect, right? Because how could anybody? How can you do like you have the NFL draft coming up? Uh, if we want to get into the esports side of it, we have the major coming up like not too long from now. We'll talk about that a little bit today.
Well, ESL announced today that the upcoming league, which starts next week, they're no longer doing the league will be held online with the
Yep.
playoffs being a LAN event in Europe. But
Is it?
a studio event. So
Yeah,
it's-
studio event.
So still
Yeah.
not open to the public, but
They moved that because that was originally slated for Denver, and
Yeah.
so that was supposed to be in Denver, and now that's going to be a studio event in Europe. So, yeah, man, it's like the trickle effect. The scary thing is, Tim, is I feel like it's just kind of getting started. Like the next few weeks will get. Now, I'm not saying this is going to become some, you know, numbers of dead are going to be incredibly high. I think the percentage right now is like fairly low, like a tenth of a percent or something. But I do think this is going to only get worse because we're not even testing everybody for it. In our area alone, they've already discovered so many new cases. So I think the numbers are incredibly
Like I
low for
said, the
where they
issue
will
is
be.
people are being dumb about it too. Like they're not feeling well, but then they're still going to work, right? Point in case with the NBA, as Kevin points out in Twitch chat, Rudy, is it
Gobert.
Gobert, right? That's how you say it.
Yeah.
Was technically unconfirmed, but then the other day was jokingly touching all the microphones in the press conference room, not
I saw the
knowing.
clip of it. He like got up and as he was walking out, he went and touched them all
Yeah.
jokingly, and yeah, he tested positive.
So it's like it's one
Uh,
of those things where it's like, yeah, we can all
I
meme
think
on
it
it.
was him. I don't know if he was confirmed, but that's the rumor is that it's
Yeah.
him. I should say.
So it's something that I think as a society it's fun to meme about and joke about. But like when it starts canceling everything and it is kind of affecting normal everyday life, I'm also worried because I am not the type to just to be stubborn. I'm like, I'm not stocking up on things, right? Like I'm that guy when there's a snowstorm coming in Texas and everyone runs to the store to collect food as if we're going to be snowed in for days. I'm like, no way, man. No way. I'm not falling for that. But now I'm like, I just need to do my normal shopping and there's nothing. I think
So
a good rule in life, because we were talking about this at work, like, because people are like, oh, people are stocking up on toilet paper. That's just not a bad everyday life rule.
no, but like the amount of toilet paper that some people are buying, I'm a little confused. Like I can go to Costco, get one of those giant packs of toilet paper. It'll last me and my wife solid 6 months, and that's pretty much all me because girls don't even poop. So I
That's
mean,
true.
that's majority me there. And so I was confused when I saw people buying like 6 or 7 like bundles of toilet paper and,
Like,
and
what
trying
are
to like,
you
I mean,
eating? A lot of
why so
fiber.
much toilet paper? Like I get food, some preservatives, medication, ammo, I guess if you wanted, but like toilet paper, you
A
know?
lot of fiber. They're planning on eating a lot of ramen when they're
All the doomsday preppers are
yeah.
salivating right now though. They are
Oh,
salivating right
they're
now.
hoping for it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This
They're
is the
hoping for
moment.
it. So yeah, it's getting crazy out there. So I don't even know what do you tell people? Do you say stay safe? Stay safe out there when it's like a a sickness that you don't even know you have until it's too late, and then you're like, well, I already touched 1,000 people. Sorry guys, didn't know.
I
Like,
gotta go to work tomorrow where I got 2,000 people in our building.
yeah, like
What are you
oh,
gonna do about that?
and you could and it's also getting to the point now where at work, like anytime someone coughs or sneezes, everyone's like, "You okay there?
Yep.
How you
Yeah. How you
feeling?
feeling?
Hi-
Yeah.
Yeah, you feeling a little hot, a little queasy?"
Is it scratchy? Is it feel a little scratch, a little itch in the back of your throat, or
Yeah. No, it's crazy, and I think those are the only other big. Oh, ours, our personal big news. DreamHack did make a statement today on Dallas and said that they are working with the city. They're keeping a close eye on it. As of right now, they don't find any evidence to cancel the event.
we're good for another week or so?
It's happening. Nope, they're not quitting.
We're good
DreamHack,
for another
don't
week or
don't
so.
be a pussy, DreamHack. You don't quit because of some invisible virus, all right? We laugh at Corona and we're going to DreamHack Dallas. Don't you quit on I'm not quitting on you, don't you quit on me. Don't
This
you
is like the most optimistic I've ever seen you in the 220 episodes we've done. I love it. This
I'm
is the
believing. I'm believing. I'm
new
going.
haircut, new man, new
It's this new
optimism.
haircut. I'm
It's
just
like
so
just a
mature now.
fresh Tim.
I'm so mature. It's 80 degrees again. I can start rocking the V-nets. Give it a couple more days. I'll start rocking the sleeveless again.
The tanks, that C9 tank coming out
Got
soon.
the
I
bro
feel it.
tees coming, bro. No, I'm ready. I'll show up to the Dallas Convention Center by myself if I have to, and I'll have my laptop out front gaming by myself. I'm going to DreamHack Dallas, whether they're there or not. All right. Well, speaking of Dallas, though, we didn't get to talk about this on the last episode because it was kind of finishing up as we were recording, so kind of just goofy timing with it being on the West Coast. But
Yeah.
CDL Los Angeles, their event ended up wrapping up. Dallas Empire ended up defeating the Minnesota Rocker in the finals 3-2. Quite thrilling. And I have a few things. Now, we didn't get to watch a whole lot of this because we were super busy doing super top secret stuff last week. And then, of course, it's just goofy timing with the West Coast and when we record. But Dallas played a pretty incredible weekend when it comes to like very close matches. Like a lot of their games don't reflect it, but this wasn't as a clear walk in the park as the scoreline shows it.
Well, no, I mean, fortunately for them, not to say that they had no chance in winning, but fortunately, Minnesota took out the heavy favorites, right? Atlanta got
Yep.
knocked out in the semis by Minnesota, who had played well in the previous CDL event. So they're a team obviously on the rise and continuing to play well. But yeah, I mean, Dallas against Minnesota, obviously, it went down to the wire. It was nice to see Shotzi come alive in this tournament. He's been getting, the poor guy has really gotten an unwarranted amount of hate his way. It's actually been like pretty crappy, especially coming from people like Nameless, who's on the desk and then completely blast this kid, knowing that he's like first year in the pro scene. And we're talking about 2 matches in. We're not at the end of the season yet. And he finally showed up in this event, and you could see the difference. Obviously, you had Clay, who had some epic flanks in this event, something that he's been doing for 10 years, it feels like, in Call of Duty. And they just gelled and looked good in the event. Although there were a lot of close games, the difference is they've been in close games previously. They won them this time, right? It's not like they've gotten blown out previously a lot. They've had a couple of bad games here and there. But for the most part, it's been a tight race, and they just haven't found a way to close out games. They did that today, or this past week. Obviously, new head coach. You don't know what difference that makes immediately. But it's a huge confidence boost for all of them to do that as a cohesive unit and move forward from this, because rankings wise, this puts them in a pretty spot too.
Yeah, because I know we talked a little about it off the show, but I think going into it, like going into each week, you just kind of assume if Atlanta or Chicago is going to be in it, there's a good chance that they'll be in the finals, right? So if you can sneak in a win with some of these events where they don't perform and they don't win, I mean, you're looking at a pretty good top spot in the league, because there's just not going to be that much. The points won't be spread around as much, right? If
Yeah.
the assumption is Atlanta and Chicago are going to win the majority of them, well, then the big chunk of points are just going to be very top heavy. And then all you have to kind of do is continue performing at a decent pace if you've won one, right? And where Dallas has now won their one for the league, kind of puts them, it's still very early, right? This is all very too soon assumptions,
Yeah.
but you would assume this kind of sets them up to be, hey, just stay consistent now, and you'll have a good spot.
They can't have many week one performances, right? Where you come out with 0 points. Because if you do that, you're going to give it up pretty quick. But yeah, getting the 50 points for the win, I think negates that 0 point week. And now you're on track where you've performed well kind of throughout all the tournaments. You still have a lot left. There's like 3-4 tournaments probably left for them at this point. So they'll just have to place good to average. Obviously, they want to do better than that going into it, but good to average gets you in at this point.
Yeah.
I think, what are they sitting at? They're only 10 points behind FaZe and Huntsman. They're sitting at 80 points, where FaZe and Huntsman are at 90. Minnesota sitting at 70, and then it falls off from there to 50 and below. So they're in a very comfortable spot, assuming they just keep performing the way they have and shown that they're able to do. And I think there's no reason to believe that. So this was a really good win for them, though. I think they needed this more than anybody, just because the hype around them was so high coming into the year, and then getting spanked a few times against like the big boys again. That would really just be FaZe and in Chicago. People had their doubts, and this kind of shuts some of those haters up, I think, at least for the time being.
Yeah, and as we discussed in our Corona update, the next event will be here, right down the street from us, at the Toyota Music Factory in Irving or Las Colinas if you're in the area and you know what that is. But we'll just have to see. I mean, that's towards the end of the month. We're still like 3 weeks out. If I had to guess, not going to happen. That probably won't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it will either.
Now, maybe
Unfortunately,
they'll
I'm
do.
really looking forward to this one. So like
I know. It's just because
this sucks.
Toyota Music Factory is like a beautiful. It's the most. Even though I've never seen an esports. In fact, there's never been an esports event there. Perfect venue for it. And yeah, it's gonna suck. Maybe with the new NVHQ, maybe they'll host the matches there. Maybe we'll be able to sneak in and still catch some of them live, if that's what they do. But I will be shocked if the Dallas weekend still happens.
Yeah,
I
much
just don't
as
see
for
it.
it to happen, I don't see it happening. And this is going to be another obviously a fun tournament. It's a tournament that you have obviously Dallas is in, but you have Chicago there, you have Minnesota there, Florida. So you know if Prestini is back, that's another team that has performed really well with their full lineup.
Paris,
Yeah, Paris, another surprising team. And so again, like that's a stacked event. You don't have the phase there. I think that's the only one that's really missing from that group. But it's a really nicely lined up event. So unfortunate if it doesn't go down, but we'll be covering it either way. Um, we'll still have some fun with it for sure.
yeah. So keep an eye out for any cancellations there. But you know what's not going to get canceled right now, Anuj? And that's Flashpoint. Or it might. Correction, it might get canceled, but it won't be because of the coronavirus. It will just be because it's not exactly what was pitched. I mean, for those who haven't kept up with the Flashpoint drama, I know we haven't really talked about it since our last big update with them in ESL and everything that happened there when ESL really announced their teams, but it's mainly because Thorin and the talking heads for Flashpoint kind of went quiet for a little bit, which kind of got people, talking.
Once the writing was on the wall,
yeah,
right?
I think that everyone was talking in the shadows, like, you had all that bark but no bite, like all that talk. They put all their chips, I think, into the Astralis basket when they thought Astralis was going to join, so they were puffing their chests and. Maybe the little bit of that was, a little bit of smoke screen to make teams think, ooh, wow, I really need to get involved with here. Because we have our official roster, Anuj. I don't know about you, but it's not what I was expecting.
The funny thing is, had they not come out and acted the way some of them acted in particular, like just being so vocal about it, this is kind of what I expected the balance to be initially. But then you had, like you said, a lot of the talking heads for Flashpoint come out and start talking about every team in this league is going to be ranked in our top 20. If teams are outside of the top 20, they have the ability to get fined tens of thousands of dollars or whatever the number was, an absurd amount. And so they hyped it up to make us then believe, hey, this is going to be
But
the league.
in their defense, Anuj, yes, they can fine teams. They have the right to fine you if you're out of the top 20. But that probably means they have a lot of teams in the top 20, no?
Well, yeah, that was the pitch they were going to make, right? They ended up with how many? Like just a few.
They have 3.
Yeah.
3 teams in the top 20, and yet you have it in your rule book that you can fine teams if they fall out of the top 20. But yet here you are signing teams out of the top 20.
I don't know if you're going to be on board with this, but I'm actually I'm still actually excited about this league. I do think like for the teams that are in it, it's a really good mix of like up and coming tier 1 teams and then some of those tier 1 teams that have been established names that hell, even if they're towards the end of their career, you've given us basically the ex-NIP lineup we have, right? That's like really fun and exciting to see. And if you don't think that's going to bring in a ton of fans, you're crazy, right? You have the most popular Brazilian team in your league in MIBR, regardless of how they're playing it, they still bring a lot of hype and a lot of fans. You have the most popular NA team, regardless again of how they performed over the past year Cloud9
Chaos.
still
Oh,
has
okay.
the biggest fan base, out of probably any of them in terms of following. And then you start pairing that up with teams that have iconic histories, right? You brought in an Envy. I think that that's a better signing than what it's looked at right now, because we know that's a team that's trying to build and has brought in some talent that we don't know what they are exactly yet, and they've managed to bring their way into this league. I think that's a big win. And we could talk about some of the new ones too, Tim. I mean,
Yeah,
Fun
and
Plus.
I will say, because you paint me with this brush that I was just so negative. I just enjoy taking pop shots at people who also took pop shots, right? Like, they came in so hot,
Oh, for
talking
sure.
so much trash to ESL and anyone who even questioned them. I am not ESL Homer. I might have an ESL chair, but that's only because it was 50% off and your wife didn't like the colors, so I was able to buy it from you. I'm not pro one league or the other, right? We're a neutral party. We're a podcast. We're a content creator. The more leagues, the better for us. That's the more we can talk about. I just think it's funny how it all unfolded. Like, we were told when this was pitched that we were going to have 10, right? 10 founding members with 2 qualifying from qualifying tournaments, with the ability to fine, as we already discussed. And now we're walking in. We only have 8 founding members because I guess they couldn't find 2 other teams to pay up. And so now we have 4 qualified teams that they just said, okay, we know some of you lost in the qualifiers, but surprise, you've now qualified. So I just think that's the only reason I like jabbing at them, because throughout this whole process now, Twitter's been a little bit more quiet from certain people. I don't want to point any fingers, but
No, you're right. Thorne hasn't said much recently.
no, he hasn't said anything. So, but with that being said, right, I'm going to turn the page and look at the positive points of this. Everything that you said, you do have a wide range of possibilities with some of these rosters. But I also think you're going to see competitive Counter-Strike, because looking at this, there is not one team on here, Nuge, that I'm like, they are number 1 in the league.
Yeah, or that they're a pushover, right? Like, nobody on this list you look at and be like, oh gosh, here we go. Like, even Copenhagen Flames and these guys, Contacts, these are like good up and coming teams. These are very competitive, have players on these rosters that you will see on some of these bigger name teams. I think over time, but obviously being in the league is going to help them retain. Even teams like Chaos, right? This is Steel's team. There's going to be a lot of viewership behind that. And I think that'll be a competitive roster. They made it all the way to the finals, obviously, and got the last minute invite. But yeah, there's going to be like good CS here. We don't know who's going to come out on top. We could definitely predict it, and we will. But we're going to see, again, I'm excited for some of the teams. I just really am. There's not a lot to knock, other than it wasn't a bunch of top 20 teams like they said. Doesn't mean what's there is bad. Like, I'm stoked to see Dignitas. I am really pumped to see what my old boys can do, right? Like, the team that I rooted for coming on this show initially, like 4 years ago, like that was my squad that I watched every game in and out. And so pumped to see that. Pumped to see Envy back in CS. Like, it's been a long time since we've seen the Envy brand on the big stage consistently, and it feels good to have them back. So yeah, a lot of positives coming out of here, except for how they teed it up. Like, they teed it up so poorly, it was too easy to make fun of.
Well, and like we said way back when we were talking about everything, is what you're damaging is the public perception of it, right? Where before, I think if things just went the way it was and everyone was quiet and just let the team sign and let the chips fall where they fell, I think fans would have looked at this as being like, hey, this is still going to be a fun event. Will still be a fun league to watch. You would have had some taking jabs that they got, the leftovers, if you will. But because of the way it went down, now, I mean, you look, it's like every tweet is people bringing up the fact that you weren't able to sell the 10 slots that you were trying to sell, and you had to actually invite more teams to the league that actually failed to qualify originally.
Yeah, but I don't know if the larger population knows that, you know? Like just the average Counter-Strike fan that's just looking to watch some competitive CS, he's probably gonna just see the brand names behind it and be like, "Oh yeah, like it's a pretty decent league, right?" Like we know it so in depth, and we follow the storylines that come along from this. And there's a lot of people that know it too. But I think a lot of the average fans also just are looking for good CS. Now maybe they'll watch ESL a lot more because they'll be able to see the rankings and be like, "Wow, look at all these like highly ranked teams in that league. I want to watch that one more than I want to watch this one." But I think a lot of the average fans not gonna know too much about how Flashpoint presented this, and that it was like really salty because not that many of the communities on like Twitter in general, right? Like small percentage of the population is really using Twitter for everything. So we follow it, we see it, we share it with y'all. But I just don't know how many people really know that just watch like CS casual.
Yeah, but still, how many of those casual viewers do you think are going to trickle down to, if you are a casual viewer and it's like, I don't even know how to say this name. Havu?
Yeah, Havu.
Havu? If you're on Twitch and you're like Havu versus Copenhagen Flames, that sounds like a Mountain Dew League match.
That's not going to be one of the more compelling ones, right? Like you're not going to promote that on the front page of Twitch and be like, "That's the one we're going to watch." Or
Come
like,
on, everybody.
you know, Contact Chaos. Like, yes, there'll be people watching it, but I think I'm talking about the casual fan. That's like the casual Cloud9 fan, right? There's like a ton of people that just support Cloud9 because it's Cloud9. I think the same thing can be said for MIBR. I think the same thing can be said for like Envy, and now you're going to bring in this new group of fans. We haven't even discussed this, right? Like you have Gen G, new into CS, and then now recently Fun Plus Phoenix, making their way in and buying Heroic's old roster, which caused this whole recent chaotic situation, which I guess I could briefly explain. But basically, Heroic was an ESL Pro League. Fun Plus Phoenix bought Heroic's roster, moved that slot from ESL to Flashpoint, at which point Big, the German CSGO roster, backed out of Flashpoint and took Heroic's old ESL slot. If you
That's
didn't get that,
really confusing.
it was a swap. Heroic is now Fun Plus, and they're in obviously Flashpoint. Big moved over to ESL. And so you had this kind of like weird domino effect happen there because, again, Big was projected to be one of the founding teams. Fun Plus came in and took that spot. Fun Plus, I mean, again, if you're trying to draw in the Asian influence in that audience, like, fantastic job. That's a win, I think, in itself.
Yeah, it almost sounds bad. The Asians are coming, Anuj.
No, they are.
If
You're going to see a lot of Asian, I think, influence coming into CS, also preparing for a game like Valorant. Right? Like
well,
if people keep saying, "Oh, hey, this game is just like shooting wise like Valorant," you might even see a spike in the CS numbers.
I was about to say, maybe that's like a side effect that we haven't even discussed, is maybe Valiant creates some Valorant. Maybe Project A. Maybe Project A create some hype over in the Asian markets for a game styled like this, and they're like, well, why don't we just try? Everyone keeps comparing this to CS, or maybe they're comparing it to, what's the game they play over there?
Crossfire.
Maybe they're like, oh, this is like Crossfire but with abilities. Who knows? But yeah, it is. It's always interesting to see any new team get into CS, especially though when you can be new and then get in on a level like this. You know, you're not starting off in the MDL or anything like that. You're starting off on a pretty high level for
Pro League.
For people in CS who, if that's all you follow and you've never heard of Fun Plus Phoenix, they're a Chinese owned org. They're kind of known in the MOBA scene.
Well, didn't they just beat G2? Like 3-0
they made a splash in the
they won it,
the Worlds.
Right?
Did they win?
Yeah,
yes, they did
it.
win. They did win because
they like 3-0 G2. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
they did win
sure,
Worlds.
right?
Now that you mention that, yeah, they did.
Yeah.
That is a wildly different brand and market that is jumping over into this. So that is cool to see. I guess.
Yeah.
You know, I guess
No,
there's some
I think
possibility
that's
there.
good. You know, I'm surprised we didn't see a team like TSM buy a roster spot or something here. Like you have TSM available. I thought that would have been
Look,
kind of a natural
I'm gonna
fit.
call it. All right. It is March 11th, 2020, 9:16 p.m. TSM is not getting back into CS. They're telling people they are, but they've had 100 opportunities and reasons to get back in, and they haven't. And the
Fair
fact
enough.
that if you're looking to get back into a scene that you were pretty popular in at one point in time, and you don't look at ESL and you're not going here, what are you doing? There were so many not free rosters, but I mean, I guess technically they still could pick up Orglis. Technically, they could still get that roster, but
Or if you also don't think at this point, like they could easily wait a year to see how Flashpoint is doing, and then still buy one of those 4 remaining slots. Like Flashpoint would love to sell a founding member slot to an org like TSM, right?
yeah.
Just branding wise, they would really have they would have the bigger brands technically. If TSM was in here along with Envy, Cloud9, MIBR, like globally, they have massive reach at that point. And then now you even add, like you said, Fun Plus and these guys. So yeah, although they may not be coming back right now, I think there's still an opportunity for them to fall in. Even T1. We'll talk about this obviously in E News, but they obviously have an interest in the FPS side.
Oh,
And
they're
so I'm
just stretching
surprised.
out all over. Like T1
Yeah,
has signed NK
MK
Leo
Leo. Yeah,
for Smash. Um, we'll mention it in E News more, but they did sign Brax for their shooting. Not a professional Project A player. Don't want to say that. We cannot say he's a professional Project A player yet, but he did sign with them. So they're even looking at to breaking in. So maybe we see them, but I don't think TSM, man. We've been hearing TSM wants to get back in for a long time now, and they've
and
had
you're right. There has been opportunities, and there's still opportunities. Like, again, it's not like they're gone, but the fact that they haven't done it, is
yeah.
also quite telling, I guess.
So looking here, who out of this roster now? Mad Lions is the highest ranked. I believe they are 12th in the world.
Yeah, but we all know the recent change. Hunden is
Exactly.
gone.
So they're not.
Is now on the team.
Yep. So looking
Um,
here, I mean, who is the favorite out of these teams?
I'm going to give you. Can I give a couple of teams here?
No, that's fair. Because like I said, I don't think you can look at one and be like, this team's gonna dominate.
So I think Dignitas will perform fairly well in this league. I think there's just a lot of veterans they're all veterans on this team. Guardian stepping in for them
Okay.
early on, right?
Did you
So
see that
Guardian will
team
be
photo?
No,
They did Guardian dirty.
they always do Guardian. Everyone does Guardian dirty.
Whoever in the Dignitas photo, they must have not had an extra jersey, so they gave him a t-shirt. But it looks like they gave him like Get Right's t-shirt. That thing was so tight on him.
He likes tight clothes.
Showed
Though.
so many curves that I didn't need to see.
All of his Navi jerseys were always like that. Though. They're like very, very tight.
It
fitted.
looks so uncomfortable.
It does. It does.
And it doesn't help that like he was also standing next to, I think, Forrest, he was standing next to Freiberg, who was actually deceivingly tall. So it's like he looked like he was about 4 feet tall, just the tightest shirt that should not be tight. I looked at that and I was like, oh, Guardian, they did you dirty. They did you dirty, buddy.
You. I think Dignitas has a chance to perform really well in this league. I think Gen G, we saw them play well recently. Players like Som, Automatic, I think they will have the ability to do well here. Like where I think Daps lacks, that would be tough in a league like ESL. I think he could perform very well in a league like Flashpoint. And then Envious's roster, I just need to see more of them. right? Like I would like to think that they could do well in this league. I think they have the ability to do so. That it's a full international lineup. That always makes me slightly nervous, but I think all the players that they have are very capable. Like even some of the more unknowns,
Yeah.
like the Ryans and all that,
I was
have
watching
all
I was
been in
watching
the scene for a
something
long time.
I was watching something and there was like a former pro that said he absolutely hates international lineups. Like he just feels like no matter what, they do not work because although you can communicate in game decently enough, you will never have the team chemistry off the game.
But see, I think that's a ridiculous statement. Like friendship can come from any
I
form,
mean, look
or
at
like doesn't
us.
mean like, yeah, like I mean,
I
what
mean,
does
I
it
don't.
matter like where you're from to determine how close you can get with one another? I think
Like,
that's just
do
like
you
a
even understand what I'm saying right now?
excuse me,
Like, I'm speaking English and you're speaking Indian.
like the accent is throwing me off for sure. Um, no, yeah, I think that's just a dumbass statement. I don't even want to talk about that statement. Yeah, but I do think that's a challenge in CS because it's not done that often, right? Most of the teams you see are like Swedish lineups, Norwegian lineups, Danish lineups. Like it's very rare you see like huge international lineups like FaZe has done recently. So I think Envy can be really good too. And that'll be fun. You'll notice I don't mention MIBR and Cloud9. Both of them make me incredibly nervous. Like MIBR has just fallen off the cliff, man, and I've rooted for them to make a comeback, and I've really wanted to see it. Like I thought I could just will it into happening because they were so iconic and then just like vanished. Those comeback stories are amazing when and if they happen. I don't think that's happening here, Tim. Like I don't think we'll ever see MIBR get back to the level that even close to the level that they were once at. And so, unfortunately, I think that we'll only see that team return when drastic changes happen. And then Cloud9, like the ATK roster, as much as like I thought they were like good, they're just that. They're just good. And I think even in this league, they're just going to be like a good team. They're not going to be a great team. They're not going to be a terrible team, but they might hover a little bit above, in my mind, a little bit above 500. Beat up on some of the lower teams and have a difficulty against, again, some of the teams that we're mentioning now. So I would
Yeah. No, so
have
like
a hard time picking them.
kind of looking at my favorites, I do agree with you about Cloud9. I do think they're going to be right around 500. And when I say 500, I mean 500 wins. I think Cloud9's going to run the table with this league. In fact, I think they chose this league because they knew they could. I really think Floppy and Sonic are probably the two next up and comers. Like you think.
Are you looking at HLTV to figure out who was on the roster just now? Or is that what you have up right now? Be honest.
No, I have Liquipedia, sir. I have
Okay.
Liquipedia to look at their roster. Thank you very much. Cloud, it's weird. Like this roster for Cloud9's been together for like a good amount of time, and yet I feel like we haven't seen them at all. Now that's partially just because you had the Rio qualifiers, which they did qualify for. They've been in a handful of tournaments and didn't perform that well in. And then I think it's just people are waiting around for their respective leagues to start.
Yeah.
So, I would like to see Cloud9 do well again. Nothing about their roster though gets me excited. Can I say that as a Cloud9 fanboy?
For sure. Like they're really, it's hard. It was a really big change to make. They've been an NA group for a long time. They bought a European, well, half a European roster. Not to say like you can't like fall in love with them. It's just there was no like Cloud9 that we've seen players grow up onto those teams, right? We watched a player like Shroud grow up onto that team. Like he was a good player coming in, he became a legend once he joined the team. We saw that with Stewie, same kind of thing. Now, even the other players, you look at like Skadoodle or Jordan, like these guys were iconic NA legends joining that team with this up and coming talent. So it's easy to get behind them and root for them. You just bought a roster and like changed the name on the jersey. It doesn't feel the same. I would love for it to feel the same. I enjoyed rooting for Cloud9 as like my NA team, I don't really feel the same way. Like Liquid has become that to me now, right? Like Liquid is NA's team. Like although, we get and like you can't really say that about many other good teams, right? Like how many all NA rosters are there to root for that are in the top even 15? Like anybody else? I can't even think about another team.
Yeah,
But I guess Evil Geniuses would be the
evil
other one.
geniuses and things like that. But even like, I mean, like you said, the NA legends are few and far between now. Like you don't have like I mean, all the names you just said, like Shroud and all that. You just don't have those anymore. Um, they've all just been so spread out throughout the NA scene, which kind of created a lot of mediocre NA teams. I I think just by default you have to give Dignitas the nod for being the best chance of taking the league because they just have so much experience there. Like
Yeah.
EU experience too. So even if they're playing off their game, I mean that was still like a top 15 roster, right?
It's like Ibrahimovic coming to the MLS, you know? Like he might not be the same, but he's still gonna have some pretty magical moments out there and be able to win a game for you on a free kick. And in this regard, like a set play for Dignitas, a situation that they encounter mid game that they've seen 1,000 times before, that some of these other teams have maybe seen a handful of times before. I think they'll be all right. And Halsrick, when he is back, has looked really good for them. And I do hope Guardian kind of gets rejuvenated here, and we see, even if it's just for a short period of time, like a really good Guardian would be nice. Although we haven't for a while, so maybe my fingers being crossed there needs to be a part of this because if he's not doing well, like that'll be tough on them. Um, but I think Dignitas, yeah, is like kind of one of the easier picks for this league.
Yeah.
Heroic might be a sleeper pick, or Heroic Fun plus Phoenix, might be a sleeper pick also because they always kind of sneak in some like really good wins and stay ranked really high. They're one of the top 15, 20 teams or whatever. So um, they also have an opportunity.
Yeah, so that does start. When does it actually start? I believe this weekend on the 13th, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so just in a couple of days on Friday, those matches will start. I have no idea about the time, so just take a
No,
look
we
at.
do have the draft tomorrow. The group draft selection is tomorrow.
Okay.
So I think that's 2 o'clock Central. But go check out their Twitter if you want to be sure on that. But yeah, the group draft is tomorrow, so that'll also probably be more interesting to come back and pick how we think the layout would look after that, because then we'll have a good idea of kind of who's going to be going up against who. But yeah, that draft will take place tomorrow.
All right, so we'll keep an eye out for that. The other next big CS news item here is at the ESL One Rio Major 2020. Like I said earlier, the stage is set. We have what I call the sticker rounds, because a couple years ago this would not be the major, but they've kind of expanded it. Now we do have the major starting with the minors, because now all these teams get their own stickers and everything like that and whatever. Still don't like it, but here we are.
But we're here. This is the new major. This is what the major is now, and so we'll now get on board. We had a year to kind of sulk in it and not enjoy it, but at least this way we are getting. I mean, we're getting some teams that I'm incredibly excited to see in the major, right? Or have a chance to see their stickers. And, again, I don't care too much about the sticker stuff, but I enjoy it to a certain extent. For the EU side, obviously we had the last minute heroics of Complexity getting in and everything that was tied to that with Mad Lions, but they found a way to get in. If you think about it, Tim, like we would miss out on so many of these big name teams. Look at on the EU side, just in who's in the European minor. You got Fnatic, you got Nip, Complexity, Dignitas, kind of the core four there, along with, Godsend had a really big upset against OG. Crystal played out of his mind and made some of the most clutch plays, including like a silent drop from Heaven and Nuke on a 15-14 round to win it for him in a 1v1 situation. So, Godsend looked really good. And so, all 4 or 5 of those teams right there alone, that's going to make for a great round of games. And on the NA side, I feel like we got again, you see a team like Envious get an opportunity to compete. Cloud9 is basically Flashpoint. Envious, Cloud9, Gen G, all kind of advancing through into the minor, along with some unknowns like Bad News Bears. A team like that has Peter on it. I've never heard of some of these teams, Tim. Boom, Red Canids, and I don't even know what this other team is, just looking at the logo. So, well, we'll have a chance to at least get a little bit of good CS heading into the challenger stage. There's like a handful of big teams, and we'll only see a few of them make it through here.
Yeah, I think out of all of the minors, this is a cop out, but the one that obviously interests me the most is Europe, right? The EU minor, just because half of those teams could just be in a major themselves. I mean, the fact that Fnatic fell so far that they have to play through the minors is kind of mind-blowing in that sense when you look ahead to see what type of teams are sitting in the challenger stage. Like, well, I mean, G2's been playing okay, but like MIBR, and we always see this. We always see with the major, because there's so much time between the last major and now, so many things change, and we always have that dialogue of how it's not fair that this team's in the challenger stage from a major that happened 8 months ago or whenever the last one was. I don't even know.
Tim, in some cases, not even the same teams. Virtus Pro is now in the major. 100 Thieves is now in the major. Evil Geniuses now in the major. Like, these weren't even teams, that were competing at the time. And so, yeah, like, so much time goes by. It's like, wait a minute, why are these the legends again? Or how did this happen? But a lot of good teams in the minors will at least get 2 out of EU, a potential for another one out of the like play-in qualifiers that they do. I think it is tough when you start talking about like the CIS minor and the Asia minor. Both of those, it's like really hard for me to think that both of those deserve 2 slots each. Like, they should really get 1 slot to have representation from your region. I know Counter or Valve does not want to do that. Like, it's better for them to make it more global, and have some of these teams advance farther in. But to think, 2 out of the Asia minor are going to get a chance. Like, it's going to be what, like Tai Lu and Renegades, or Tai Lu and Vici, and both will be early exits most likely. Beyond that, especially like a team like Tai Lu, we've been talking about them for years and have never ever done anything.
They've just never really broken that international seal. They're
No.
always a feel-good story. They might get an upset here and there in group stage, but they just never progress, right? And so it's like, at what point, it sounds awful, but at what point do you just say, hey, kid, it's time, right? Like, we appreciate you coming, but we got better qualified teams here that should probably take your spot.
Like, to think EU can't get 3 out of this grouping is pretty crazy. So hopefully we get a third one in through the minor play-in qualifier that they'll end up doing for the losers, teams that get left out. But we'll see. I think we have a fun schedule ahead of us, at least for the European minor, and I think the American minor is a little bit more set, or closer to being set. I think there's like 3 teams really that will focus or hone in on. But on the EU side, there's really about 5 teams there that you think, oh gosh, any one of them is deserving, and only 2 are going to make it through.
Yeah. So we have plenty of time, though, to discuss that. Hell, these games don't even start until April 26th. Some of these teams make roster moves and drop out. Some might join back in. Who the hell knows? But
Corona could be there still, and we're not seeing any games. Who knows?
I mean, that is true. That's another thing. It's just, what if the coronavirus is fascinating to me, because at one level you just want to keep saying people are blowing it way out of proportion. It's just a cold. But then at other times they're like, well, I haven't heard anything about it in Brazil. But is that just because it's Brazil and people forget about them down there until like we host an event there? I don't know.
Yeah, or it's like, or if they don't have it, do you really want to send a bunch of people from other countries that do have it into your country? Like, that's another fear.
Well,
like,
I think that's very American of us to do, is to bring sickness into people who don't have sickness. So I think the patriotic fashion, I think it would be injustice if we didn't do that. personally.
You only get a pandemic every once in a while to take advantage of, Tim.
I mean, if I can't stock up on toilet paper, I don't want to live. That's my life's motto. So there's the qualifiers. They don't start until April though, the actual minor and everything there. So we'll obviously keep in touch though when that gets closer to. Anything else on that though?
No?
All right, so let's get into some e-news because we got quite a bit to get to here. Sticking around with CSGO, we talked a little bit about it, but Guardian is stepping in for Dignitas on loan from Navi. On loan. That's a key thing there. He's not joining the roster full-time just yet, so he's going to be on loan from Navi. Visa issues for Halzerk and all that fun stuff there. ESL, the entire Pro League, is to be played online. We discussed that. The funny thing is with this, though, and some people are saying, oh, that sucks, which it does suck, but, like, keep in mind, ESL only started doing LAN events for their season, like, what, 2 seasons ago? Like, that was a relatively fresh thing for the league.
But it's like now what we expect.
It used to all be online. Yeah. So the logistics are there. They know how to do it. It just sucks that they have to do it that way.
It'll still be good CS.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yep. In Overwatch, we said they've canceled all the March and April matches. The games are still happening, though. They have not announced anything about when or where or how, but they are still happening. I think at this point, they just gotta do them, right? Yeah. Like, get them done. You're so far behind with some of these schedules and the matches. Just get them done. Their priority is to have them broadcast, obviously, because that's what you want all the matches on there. But
this has got to be worse for them, in my mind, than anybody else right now. Because we talked about it so many times on the show that this felt like such a make or break season for the future of Overwatch. And I don't know, maybe it gets them a pass in the sense of, we don't know.
It gives them
what
a
we're
pass.
Getting. But at the same time, like, it's still affecting the bottom line. And as more time passes by, there's more competition against your game. Right?
Yeah.
Like, another year passes by, new competitors come out, people's focus shift in that sense. When you had the attention of really the whole esports scene going into the year, because everybody was curious, like, what was Overwatch going to look like with home and home this year? We're missing out on all of that fun stuff right now. And so I think personally it hurts them, although there's a built-in excuse naturally with coronavirus. I just don't know if, like, you can, like, next year be like, okay, this is just as big as it was the year before, especially with some stuff that's on the horizon.
Yeah, of course you lose some hype, but I don't blame the league, or, you know, you see some idiots online.
I'm just saying this is like making it significantly worse, in my opinion. Like, it's not just like for Counter-Strike missing out on ESL Katowice, right? Like, Counter-Strike's going to be okay at the end of the day. Overwatch, I felt like just had so much riding on this season that it's really unfortunate that it's taken such a crazy turn that they had no control over to begin the year.
Yeah. I mean, and everyone's feeling it too. You know, NBA, we said, canceled the season or whatever. People keep wanting to argue semantics, whether it's canceling or suspending or post. They're not happening right now, right?
Yeah.
They have been
suspended.
They have been suspended. So tough break for Overwatch League, and I'm sure CDL, and I'm sure any other event coming up. It's a tough break. Tough break, pal. In COD, Warzone dropped finally. We played a little bit about it a little bit last night. Anuj, what were your thoughts?
I thought it was actually, like, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the game. I think there's some things that they need to work on, like the armor system. I think is a little flawed right now. Also, the respawns are like real fast.
Yeah,
like you can always come back. It feels like, and so the games feel very extended because of that.
It's definitely, it's got to be one of the hardest BRs to win. Like, if we ever win one, I will feel like we really accomplished.
First of all, we're going to win one. Okay, there's no doubt in my mind. In fact, this weekend, we'll probably be streaming it a little bit together. I just got to find out some time, but I think Tim and I are going to make that happen.
What if we get coronavirus together for showmanship? And your wife has to come stay at my house, and I could come stay at your house for 2 weeks. And
why don't we just get like a TCR, like, Fortress, Tim, and like do something like that.
We probably should. How hard can it be? I saw
I don't
that
think it could be
100
that
Thieves
hard.
video. It seemed pretty easy to me. Cut a hole in a desk, shoot a Red Bull up through it.
Done.
Easy peasy. I liked Warzone. I'm not a huge fan of BR games, and this one is different enough to where, like, look, I have never in my life gotten 8 kills before in any BR game.
Yeah.
And like this one, I felt like we did it almost every time we played. So it's different
We were-
enough. I do agree.
It's like the shooting feels so natural because you play multiplayer so much,
Yeah.
right? So it's now just hopping into a bigger world, but using guns we're really comfortable like using in games. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think there's some tweaks that can make it a little bit better, but definitely enjoying it. Gonna keep playing.
Yeah. Speaking of other battle royale games, Fortnite Championship Series is to start. It will be duos. You want to do it?
I don't know much more than that.
That's it.
I did not look into it yet.
That's all you need to know because Fortnite's not
What
an
do you need to
esport.
know?
It's not an
Not
esport.
yet.
We talked about it earlier, but Brax is joining, aka Swag, is joining T1.
We could have made this a yikes potentially, right? Not because we don't support Brax, dude. I'm so happy for this guy to get an opportunity to be on a pro team and compete in a game where he's not like judged the way he is. I think that's a badass part of it. But let's not forget, like a week ago, some guy noted he obviously played, he played streamer for Cloud9. Although brief pro career in a couple different games, it's like he still was good enough to play at that level. He came out and said he's like a Valorant pro, and the community killed him. I mean, we made fun of him too, but the community like really kind of took it to the next level. I feel like, and I almost felt bad for the kid at one point. So again, Brax went pro in a game that's like not even available for him to play in any sort of like alpha or beta form, consistently. So it's a little amusing, but I'm happy for
I'm
him.
happy.
Like,
It's just, yes,
I
it's
want him
double
to do
standards,
well,
of course.
for sure.
And
for
but that's
sure.
why when he signed it, they announced him as not a Valorant player, but as a, what was it, tactical shooter. Like we signed him as a pro tactical shooter player or something like that. Like,
But then he said it in his next tweet, basically. He's like, I'm gonna go there and focus on Valorant, and it's like, oh, okay, so you're a Valorant pro.
okay, but it's not out yet. It's still in closed alpha, invite only, and littered with NDAs. But you're a pro in it. Okay, I guess that's cool.
We wish him the best. I'm gonna root for him. We'll watch him. We'll support him.
But I am
Yeah,
gonna make
yeah.
fun of him for
No,
this.
But double standard for sure.
Double standards. In other news, Reggie from Nintendo, we all know and love Reggie, joins GameStop as part of their, just on the board, right?
Yeah, he's on the board. I mean, GameStop can use any help that it can get just to like stay afloat, and I think they just need to tweak their whole business model at this point. Honestly, I don't know. Hopefully, he's a visionary. He did so much for Nintendo. We'll see what he can bring to GameStop. Is it too late? We don't know, but we'll find out.
All right, so I think that just about does it because we already talked about E3 being canceled and, of course, the EU travel being postponed and everything. So stay tuned next week for more coronavirus updates right here on the Center Ring. But that will do it for this episode of TCR, a.k.a. your favorite esports podcast. It's episode 220. It's done. It's in the books. If you tuned in, thank you so much. If you skipped around, love you all the same. Be sure and check out our Twitter at The Center Ring. If you're listening on iTunes, leave that 5-star review and a comment. We read them. We appreciate them. And we'll be back on Sunday night for Monday's episode. Talk some Flashpoint. Tell you what went down there. We got Yikes of the Week. Good times will be had by all. What events will be canceled? I mean, just there's got to be some betting website that has it out there. Like, will this be canceled? And I'm going to bet yes on everything.
Look, we were the #1 Valorant podcast 2 weeks ago, Tim. I think we are now your official Corona Esports Update podcast.
Fair enough. I will bear that cross. I'm the only one brave enough to look Corona in the face and say, not today. You're not getting DreamHack Dallas today. But that will all happen on Sunday night for Monday's episode. So again, check that out. Twitter at the Center Ring for a new. I'm Tim. We'll see ya.